So to transform our food systems, we will need global decision makers to put food and agriculture systems front and center. It's what we've been talking about all day. And this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, and COP30, which will take place in Brazil next year, offer real opportunities to do that. So that's why I'm excited for our next panel about the road to COP29, COP30, and beyond. So please join me in welcoming Fernanda Facchini, the head of climate and circularity at Natura. Round of applause. Dr. Ricardo Abramovay, who is a professor in the environment program at the University of Sao Paulo and the president of Imaflora's board of directors, and Hunter Lovins, who is a managing partner at Now Partners Foundation. I just need a second to thank, yes, please, round of applause. I'm forgetting my role, sorry. I want to thank a few more of our in-kind partners, including King Arthur Baking Company, Little Sesame, Nature's Path, Nyman Ranch, Oatly, Parlor Coffee, Raw Foods, Ceremony, Simply, Strong Roots, and Stonyfield. So give them a round of applause while I grab my water bottle. Okay. I've been excited about this panel for a long time because there is so much that we need to do before the COP this year in November, and there's a lot we need to do before Brazil next year. And I know everyone's excited about Brazil. So, this is really for all of you. This year's climate change conference kicks off in less than 2 months, right? What makes you most nervous, and what makes you most optimistic?
I don't know. I'm Brazilian, so at that moment we are suffering a lot, so I'm a little bit nervous related to this fire and the dry and the floods that we are suffering, and how this is impacting our populations and impacting our economy, because the economy in the Latin American countries needs to evolve, and now we are realistic suffering the climate change impact. And for me, it's very important to have the next year COP in Brazil, because it's an opportunity for us to open the space for our people to talk and to show the world how serious could be the projects related to the private sector and the institutions that we have in our country. This is important for me too.
I'm glad you brought up that the climate crisis is an economic problem. We hear about it being a health problem, an environmental problem, a social problem, but it is definitely an economic problem affecting not just Latin America and South America, but countries all over the world. And that is something that we need to take on seriously. Yeah. Thank you for that. So let's just go down the line.
Well, I think there are two major challenges that both Baku and Belem need to tackle. First, as Fernanda told, is the protection and restoration of tropical biomes, not just the Amazon, but tropical biomes. We already know that tropical regions worldwide are the most vulnerable to extreme climate events. In Brazil alone, in June, 32 million hectares has been burned. It's amazing. We can't breathe in several Brazilian cities, including São Paulo. And we may have already hit the tipping point where the forest could shift into a kind of poor savanna. To give you some context of this, the carbon stored in the Amazon equals 10 years of global fossil fuels emissions. It means that if we lose the forest, all the endeavor to fight climate change is also lost. This is a very important problem. But my fear is that we concentrate in this problem and we ignore another problem very important. There is another challenge just as important as health and deforestation and improved forest regeneration. The global agri-food system, we talk about this during all the day. I was in the train, I heard Bill McCabe and Ana Lapé. The global agri-food system isn't just a victim of climate change. And it's very important this because in Brazil, the agri-food system, it considers itself just a victim. No. It also drives it. It accounts for around 30% of global emissions. It's also the main driver of biodiversity loss and a big contributor to pollution. And I think it's very important to stress that the Green Revolution, which actually helped reduce hunger since the mid-20th century, now is being criticized by some of the same institutions that helped create it, like the Consultative Group of International Agricultural Research, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the World Bank. And the problem with the Green Revolution lies in what we can call its triple monotony: agricultural monotony, animal production monotony, and food consumption monotony.
Right.
I don't know if I approach this.
That lack of diversity we've been talking about today, and I think it's important to keep repeating it. What you're describing is very, very dire, and I think it's important to be reminded that the food and agriculture sector is not just a victim, it's a driver, but it's also a solution. And I think we have to keep coming back to that. Yeah. So Hunter, give me some optimism about the next COP. What are you optimistic about? They've given you their most sort of worrisome things that might happen. What are you excited about?
I am excited. I'm not optimistic. But let me explain that. I think people say, oh, you have to have hope. No, you have to have courage and conviction. We're going to go into Baku and have dialogues. Now, partners, Future Economy Forum, Food Tank, EIT Food, you guys, Imaflora, we are going to be holding these dialogues in Baku about solutions because we know how to solve the climate crisis profitably, and it involves food. Yes, agriculture is a driver of climate change. Agriculture done wrong, industrial agriculture, is a driver of the climate crisis. Regenerative agriculture is the answer. When you grow food and grow meat in the way that nature always did it, you take carbon out of the air and you put it in the soil. Here in the audience is Seth Itzken. He has a website, Hope Beneath Our Feet, with the peer-reviewed science of what holistic grazing can do in taking 10 gigatons per year out of the air and putting it into the soil. Holistic grazing is a huge part of the answer. Industrial feedlots are a huge part of the problem. So it's how do you grow food?
Yeah.
Regenerative agriculture, as Rodale has shown, can take all anthropogenic emissions every year and put it back in the soil. So you add together holistic grazing, vegetable production done right, and you solve half the climate crisis. You solve the other half with renewable energy, which also is cheaper everywhere than fossil. I was just over at the UN for their so-called Summit of the Future. We did get a pact. We did agree to a pact. It's not as strong as it should be. Will it get implemented? Remains to be seen. But they did keep in the language about transitioning away from fossil. We know how to do that. I run my ranch on solar panels, batteries in the garage. I drive a Leaf. You can do this and have a better quality of life, better quality food. Wendell Berry said, eating is an agricultural act. We all eat. What we choose to eat every day, where did it come from? Do you know the farmer? If you do, you're very likely part of the solution. Absolutely. So we're going to go into Baku with a whole handful of solutions and put these to the leaders who are there and see if we can make a difference. This is the pin from Kyoto. That was COP3. This is COP29. The UN's had 30 years of talk. Time for a little less talk and a lot more action.
Woo! Well, Hunter, that leads me to my next question. Again, this is for all of you. When I was in Dubai last year, there was so much attention on food and agriculture, again, as the solution to the climate crisis. I was jazzed, right? Like, I couldn't, believe it. It was, so long coming, so many groups, and, including the folks on the stage, worked toward that. Then I got on the plane and went home and felt depressed. And some friends, who work at different environmental organizations said, finally, we have this foundation to stand on. That food and agriculture is in documents now that we can build on. Are we there yet? Are we in a place, Fernanda, where we can build on what was built last year and the years before?
Natura is trying. For the ones who doesn't know, Natura is a Brazilian cosmetic company that are working the Latin America countries. But we are not so big and so important related to the carbon emissions, the greenhouse gases emissions. But we are trying to establish a regenerative business more than a regenerative agriculture, because we believe that we could influence and engage our customers, our suppliers, the whole value chain, because if we are working with the big chemical companies and we could support and help them to understand how important it is for them to make this movement together with us, we think we could do in a better way and survive from this crisis. But I think I love to go to COP to talk about examples, the real projects that we are developing, and to show numbers, because every time we talk about sustainability, people ask, okay, it's a beautiful discussions, but I'd like to see numbers. This is why I'm talking about economic topics, and we are measuring these. We have an integrated P&L to show to our shareholders that it's possible, and to show to the investors that is trying to save the global south. That's very important to see what we are doing on the ground. So I believe that we could do, but we need to collaborate in a huge movement together. We will do this only if we do it together.
Ricardo, do we have that movement? Do we have that leg to stand on to continue this work and amplify the solutions that food and agriculture bring to climate?
Yes, I think, and a factor that runs in our favor is the fact that conventional agriculture is more and more expensive. This is very important, and the technique over which conventional agriculture is are based, these techniques are closed, proprietary, and there are techniques that people know, that science know, that are open, and agrochemical sector tries to capture these techniques. We have to avoid this capture, because we only will have healthy food if we have an agricultural sector healthy and sustainable. This is very important. So in Dubai, the declaration, it's amazing that a declaration on the problems of agri-food system is written 30 years after the first conference,
right.
But it is considered a progress. Okay, but they didn't touch the problem of the monotony of the agri-food system, the mindset where our main challenge is to raise the supply of calories and proteins. It is maintained. This is not our main challenge. Our main challenge is to incorporate biodiversity within agricultural production.
Sure.
It's what you do in your farm. And if we don't do this, agriculture will not be viable.
Sure. Thank you for all of that. Please. Hunter, I think what's often lost in these conversations about the climate crisis and the progress that we have made, it's not enough, right, is that the climate crisis is linked to, all of the other crises we're seeing, whether it's the public health crisis, the biodiversity loss crisis that Ricardo mentioned, and so many other things. How can we bring the sort of there are two things I want to ask here. How can we bring the global community together to understand that? And how can we avoid what Ricardo was saying about this sort of greenwashing? Like the chemical companies start using the words that the regenerative agriculture people use. Big question, sorry.
Short answer, do one thing. What's your dot? Do one thing. Every day, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I going to do today? What one thing? No, we cannot, no one of us can solve it all. And people say, what can I do? I'm just one person. Said 8 billion people. Right. Together, we can solve this. Globally representative surveys show that well north of 80% of people on Earth want aggressive climate action. And well south of 40% think anybody else feels the same way. We all feel alone. So one very important thing we can do, which is what we're doing in Baku, we'll do again in Belem, is as organizations, as companies that understand that your bottom line has to be an integrated bottom line. That if you behave responsibly to people and planet, it's better business. You make more money. You attract and retain the best talent. You energize your talent. You better differentiate your brand. You reduce your risks. Notice no polar bears. This is simply better business. If these companies come together in dialogue with the activists, with the academics, we have the solutions. It is simply a question of making them happen. And this is what COPs really are. The United Nations system, every nation has a veto. Saudi makes $1 billion a day every day they delay action on climate change. Y'all really think we're going to get a deal out of any of these COPs, even Belem? No. The reason to come together at these things is to have these dialogues where we sit down with companies like Natura. You are, among other things, one of the largest female empowerment programs because you put your women to work. You are one of the biggest protectors of biodiversity, of rainforest integrity, because you show that because the nuts from these trees can be processed into oil, it's worth more to keep the trees standing than to cut them down. This is what corporates can start to do by realizing that regenerative, and yeah, there is a definition of what is regenerative. John Fullerton wrote it down in a paper called Regenerative Capitalism. If you get into an argument, I don't know what read Regenerative Capitalism. He's laid out 8 principles. We should know what it is we're talking about so that when the greenwashers come around, we can tell them to shut up.
Thank you, Hunter. Thank you. Round of applause for Hunter. Well, one thing that you said, Hunter, is that, we need better business. But I think what companies, unless they're Natura, don't realize is yet that it's not just better business that they're going to have. If they don't make the changes now, there will be no business to be had.
My old boss, Dave Brower, said you cannot do business on a dead planet. Those words are inscribed above the entrance to Patagonia's headquarters.
Right.
The businesses that understand this are part of the solution, and these are the ones with whom we're talking.
And I think the hidden costs of agri-food system are not being diffused to people. There are a lot of works coming from Rockefeller Foundation, FAO, the Food System Economics Commission, and the data is if we paid for the externalities It means the use of soil, biodiversity, the atmosphere, climate, health problems of the ultra-processed food. All this, the amount is about 50 to 100% more than the price we pay for food. These costs will be revealed in a way or another, if not in our pockets, in our health.
Conversely, Dr. David Montgomery has shown that regeneratively grown vegetables, regeneratively grown grains, regeneratively grown meat have much higher nutrient density. Paper out in January, Dr. David Montgomery out of University of Washington. This stuff's better for us. It's better for the planet. It's better for your bottom line. Come on, folks. Let's do it.
Did you want to say anything else, Fernanda?
No, I think after her, it's impossible for us.
No, but you represent the private sector, and you are one of the companies who are the good ones.
Yes, I think it's possible. My final message for everybody here, that it's possible. And we could do this together in a collaborative way. So, for example, we are from cosmetic sector, but we are working hard with food sectors, with huge company, with agriculture, with the chemical companies, packaging sectors. We need to work together and to combine the best practices between us. We are Natura is investing a lot of technology to implement agroforest systems for palm oil. That's an important monoculture and an important commodity for the world. And we are working with cacao, for example. That is very important for food systems and for the food industries, because the cacao, there is a lot of controversial related to that. So we are trying to collaborate, to work with universities, with everybody in the house to find solutions and to construct a better world. It's real. If someone wants to read more about our company, please be my guest, because we have a lot of beautiful examples to show the world that is possible, and a lot of research that show that at the rainforest we preserved more than in the median of the other parts of the forest, because we are investing more than 20 years at the region, working with the smallholders, the local communities, and the indigenous people. So we are more than preserving the standing forest, we are generating value for the people that live in that area.
Absolutely.
It's very, very important.
It is very important. What I've heard on this panel is collaboration, diversity, courage, conviction. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you all so much.